Ian.
Patrick.
This has come out the past week or so. I think it was last Wednesday. My printer is cleaning itself again, which always freaks me out.
Nice. Love it.
Up to 1,000 digital-only games will disappear when Nintendo closes its 3DS and Wii U stores. Nintendo officially announced they're going to be closing these stores March of next year of 2023. So about 13 months from now, they're going to be closing.
Yeah, and I think I need to find out when you can. I'm going to try to find out when you can stop buying currency, but that ends sooner.
This article says from May 23rd, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use credit cards in the store.
Okay.
And as of August 29th, the real drop dead date, it will no longer be possible to use eShop cards to add funds either. So you got to basically get all your money on board into that shop by August 29th, it sounds like. So you have to add your funds. You have to add your eShop funds by August 29th. Hell, load up $2,000 if you want onto these platforms. August 29th is the last date. So that's really what you have to be looking out for.
Yeah.
Versus credit cards in May.
So this is a real problem, and we've seen it as companies have shut down stores before. But I think it's particularly noticeable on something like the 3DS. And actual game preservation is difficult with this. So with older systems, everything got released on a cartridge or a CD. And so even if a game was rare, there were physical copies of it out there that you could pull from. With the 3DS, with like the advent of online stores, you start to now see a lot of games that only get digital releases. They don't get any physical releases.
Yeah, going back to the original Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah. And as time goes on, you get more and more of those types of releases. So it's not just one or two games you have to worry about. It's hundreds or thousands. And we're at the point now where it's hundreds of games. Games that, some of them were small-time developers, small-time indie stuff. But some of these games have big developers or,
some are Nintendo. Some are first party.
Big producers attached to that you're not going to be able to get them anymore. And there are no physical copies out there. So everyone's got to get them and download them onto their systems and hope that their systems stay alive, because the systems are going to start to break down. And it's a real tricky situation.
So let's just go before I get into not really counterpoint, but just a little slight variation of that. In total, according to this Video Games Chronicle article, there's about 2,000 games currently available on the 3DS and Wii U eShop stores in the West, including there's around 450 digital-only Wii U games, around 600 digital-only 3DS games, around 100 Wii U games that are also available physically from that list. So that means like around 350. And then around 300 3DS games that are also available physically. So that means about 300. About half the 3DS games are digital-only there. And there's also obviously the virtual console games that are not currently available on Switch Online that are still somewhere on those two platforms.
It sucks losing that, but at least those are, those are safe somewhere.
This is some of the notable Wii U download-only exclusives set to disappear for good. Affordable Space Adventures, Amiibo Tap, Chasing Aurora, Dr. Luigi, I forgot about that one, The Letter, Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge, Pokemon Rumble U, Pushmo World, or Pull Blocks World in Europe, and Shut the Box. And there's other ones that are Art Academy Home Studio, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars, unavailable. It was unavailable here to begin with, and Fast Racing Neo.
Some big ones to point out on the 3DS would be Dylan's Rolling Western 1 and 2. Those are Nintendo-made games that have never seen a physical release. Dr. Mario is also first-party Nintendo, losing a ton of Picross games, like 8 or 9 Picross games, including like Sanrio ones and Nintendo-themed ones, Pokemon Picross. All the Pushmo games, which they put a huge amount of effort into like promoting those when they came out.
Sure.
And it's just like, this is the only way you can get them. That entire push, all that marketing, all that effort is going to be nothing when these games disappear. One that I really like, Pocket Card Jockey. It's a...
I just looked that one up. Sorry, go on.
It's amazing. Pocket Card Jockey is by Game Freak, and it's got art by Ko Takuchi. It's an amazing solitaire game that integrates horse racing. It's really cute, really deep. It's fantastic. Another Game Freak game that's on the list, in addition to Pocket Card Jockey, is Harmonite. Harmonite's a rhythm platformer. Those are both by the people who make Pokemon. So there's a lot of stuff. All of the Guild 1 and 2 games, which were artsier games that were done by like the likes of Suda 51 with Liberation Maiden. Crimson Shroud was an RPG that had a soundtrack by the guy who did, I think, Final Fantasy Tactics soundtrack. And I think some art too. That's going to be gone. So we're losing a lot of stuff, and it's not just small throwaway titles.
No, but let's be careful though when we say we're losing it. Like, I could find these games online like illegally if I want to. These games are dumped. You can find them, get a flash card and play them, but it's a pain in the ass. Obviously, it's not legal to do that. And you know what I mean? Like, so when you say like we're losing them, it's like we're losing them official means of getting them. So to me, that means it'll be harder for the next generation to learn about them if they're not available. That to me is the big thing. It's more of an education thing at that point versus preservation. It's more about how do we pass on the knowledge of some of these games that were available in a moment in time 20 years from now. How are we going to know about them? That to me is the larger point. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I don't think that's that different than what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, when you say they're lost, to me it means like you can't get them at all.
I mean, you can, but I mean, they're lost to the public knowledge. The lack of some easy access to it is going to cause them to diminish in the terms of the public knowledge. That's my point with Pushmo. There was a moment where Nintendo was gung ho on that. The 3DS was hot. They were pushing the series. They made 3 of those games, and it'll be like it never existed.
Sure. So then obviously virtual console stuff, that's not as big of a deal because I mean those are,
like I said, all of those are that sucks,
that's fine.
But those are all preserved.
Yeah, you can play any, Game Gear games and DS games. All these ROMs are online for all these games. Your game I just searched for and found the ROM in a second.
Sure.
That you brought up. So like you can find this stuff and it's not ideal, but yes, people will be able to play these even on original hardware if not emulation. So then obviously there was people talking about this, including our friends of the Video Game History Foundation. If you click on that Inverse article, it has a nice balanced sort of response to this. It has some points and counterpoints about this. Back in 2021, this article is from, who wrote this good article here? Hayes Madsen. I never even heard of Inverse before. Back in 2021, Sony announced plans to close the digital stores for the PS3 and Vita, but reversed course after a similar backlash. But Nintendo was unlikely to change its decision, according to Serkin Toto, a CEO of Tokyo-based games industry consultancy Kantan Games. His quote, Nintendo decided to make a cut because of commercial and operational reasons, Toto tells Inverse. One could ask how much money a $70 billion company can really save by shutting down the eShop. But one could also ask, how long is it supposed to run? Until 2050? So you see both points. It's like, yes, what's the reasonable expectation to keep these afloat? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? Is it 25? How long do you put man hours and resources towards something that, honestly, no one's really using anymore? It is a point to bring up, and unfortunately, there's never going to be a clean answer about that. There isn't. This is the research I did, and I'm not saying what Nintendo's doing is fair or right, but let's within reason. I talked to 2 people I know. One person has a game out there. It's also on the Wii U that I know, an independent game. And I talked to another person that actually was involved with a launch title on the 3DS. And I straight up asked the one person on how much, that we was a Robin conversation. In terms of their sales, a game that makes hundreds of thousands of years, I said, how much dollars? $100,000 a year. How much money did you make off of Wii U in the past year? And they told me $20.
Oh, sure.
You're talking like 1 or 2 people or 3 people bought this game in the past year on it.
But the Wii U and the 3DS are very different. I think both of them provide good examples for and against.
Sure. But I did ask about a 3DS, a 3DS launch title, mind you.
Launch.
I asked how much. The person told me they got a royalty check for literally $1 over the past whatever time frame, last quarter or 6 months. So that just shows you, it gives you an idea of just like these are barren shops. Probably more so than the Wii U than 3DS, but even a lot of 3DS people have moved on to the Switch the past few years. Yeah. So when you say like, why can't I keep this up? From Nintendo's perspective, like we're not making a dime off of this really at this point. We're just not. So like, why should we keep it open? So there's going to have a conversation at some point about like if Nintendo came out and said something like, this is how much this is actually going to cost us to keep this open. But they were never going to do that. They're going to reveal like, this is how much it actually would cost us to run these shops over time and have all these servers versus how much we're actually making. People at least would understand, if not agree with it. They'd be like, okay, we get it. You can't devote hundreds of thousands or whatever it costs for the servers when you're not making any money more, whatever it costs. You can't do that. It doesn't make any sense from a business standpoint. But there's got to be a happy medium to this. There has to be. I don't know what it is.
I don't either.
You want to talk about the Video Game History Foundation's statement?
Sure. I thought you were about to read it because you had been looking it up.
Oh, yeah, okay. They said, while it is unfortunate that people won't be able to purchase digital 3DS or Wii U games anymore, we understand the business reality that went into this decision. What we don't understand is what path Nintendo expects its fans to take should they wish to play these games in the future. As a paying member of the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, Nintendo actively funds lobbying that prevents even libraries from being able to access legal access to these games. Not providing commercial access is understandable, but preventing institutional work to preserve these titles on top of that is actively destructive to video game history. We encourage ESA members like Nintendo to rethink their position on this issue and work with existing institutions to find a solution. So I think that's the larger point there, is that if Nintendo obviously commercially doesn't want these available, or it's not worth their time, allowing obviously some nonprofits in order to at least have a location to have them stored officially. Right. Just have them stored, have them available for researchers or people to come in, like even like
a literal archive,
a literal museum. Hey, it's a museum. You're only going to play them at this location or whatever. We get it. We have access to everything. You know what I mean? Like a Library of Congress sort of thing, just for video games.
Sure.
And I don't know what it would take to nudge Nintendo in that direction. I almost feel like it would take some sort of like someone to say to Nintendo directly, "Hey, here's a bunch of money to get you to change your mind," or or something that gets them out of their sort of mold where
money is probably the answer. It's just how much.
But like that's the other thing, they don't need it. But maybe if you said to Nintendo, this is how much. Like if you have someone say, how much does it cost you to operate these every year? Here's the fucking money to do it. But we don't know what it costs. We don't know what it costs to run these. We don't know what the cost. We don't know the man hours. We don't know what it costs to have the systems still in place in order to pay out to all these devs on games that aren't getting bought anymore. We have no idea what all this stuff costs. We have no idea what it costs to send a check for $1. Like what behind the scenes, what that actually costs to have that in place. We don't know.
Sure.
So that's really the issue. And that's where I do agree with the History Foundation is that like we have to have some exceptions to this to where it's not considered piracy.
Yeah. Yeah. There needs to be some sort of library system in place.
Because these libraries exist. As long as these don't exist, right? Like you can access, like I said, all these games are dumped. It's just that they're all underground, So it would be great to have an official sort of source of that. But I don't know. Maybe the ESAs, Nintendo, they're all the large game companies and publishers. Maybe they're afraid of something weird happening with it. Yeah, we'll get closer, I think.
I think they just don't view it the same way a lot of us do. I think a lot of these companies still view this as
toys,
disposable toys. And I think Nintendo is smart enough to know that's not the case, but I have a feeling there's probably still a lot of old thinking at Nintendo that this is just toys.
Or they think that will devalue it so much even by letting, I don't know. Yeah. Let's see what else is in this article here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot more else to say about it.
Nope.
But they don't have, companies don't care. They don't care about preserving their history. They just don't care.